Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about Pokemon TCG and Pokemon more broadly, my history with Pokemon, and why I think I've got to step away for the foreseeable. I made a very similar video to this a little while ago, but I didn't really expect things to get as bad as they have, and it is, quite frankly, kind of scary. So we'll go a little bit as well towards the end into the Pokemon TCG situation and where it currently stands. So I have a long history with Pokemon. More recently, I spent a couple of years during the summer holidays, spring holidays, all of that kind of thing in England, um, trying to teach kids how to play Pokemon TCG. And kids absolutely loved it. So in general, I really enjoyed playing the Pokemon TCG with kids, with obviously people from my very limited sort of friend group, and I didn't pay competitive prices or pay for competitive cards. I made a lot of my own decks that were semi-competitive because my goal with most games is not to win, it is to have fun. And more to the point, try and keep my opponent on their toes. And this is why I think my perspective in a lot of these things is kind of skewed, because I have had victories in, say, MTG, for example, and I have apologized to the guy for absolutely kicking his ass. And the guy's like, "Oh, no, no, your deck did great." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I kind of feel bad. Like, it's this is the one time that the deck's worked in like 9." He's like, "Oh, really? It beat me twice." Like, "Yeah, sorry, dude." But yeah, Pokemon's not like that. Pokemon's a much simpler game, I would argue, than MTG, especially these days where everything is very power creepy. So I played a lot of Pokemon TCG, and right around the time that I was doing a lot of these clubs, I started to see kids bring in cards that were worth money, like big money. Like I was on minimum. I think that's normal in England. We have a minimum wage, um, pretty much for all businesses, and most people operate off of the minimum wage. And I was quite happy doing it for that. But kids were bringing in some cards that were worth £200-300 at the time, and saying, "Oh, look what my dad brought." And I was like, "Ah, dude, I cannot protect you if your card goes missing. I cannot protect you if you get that card stolen. I cannot stop anything from happening to your card. Please put your binder with the staff and, just keep it away from all of the other kids." They're like, "But I want to show it off." It's like, "Yeah, but it isn't yours to show off, kid." At that point, I'd never heard of a £300 Pokemon card. We've all heard of the Charizard stuff and all of that kind of crap, but I'd never heard of a modern card being worth about that. Most expensive Pokemon card I knew about was like 40-50 quid at that time. Well, now I knew. Now I knew when I looked it up. I was like, "Oh God, that's not good." So yeah, little Timmy, little Jimmy, whatever, little Susie, let's be inclusive, was running around with cards that were worth more than my paycheck. Like, full stop, completely worth more than my paycheck. And that's when I knew that something had changed. This was about 2 or 3 years ago. Probably close to about two. That's when I knew things had changed, because that didn't exist before. Maybe it did. Maybe I was just oblivious, but I dipped in and out of the Pokemon TCG quite a lot, and it essentially it treated me quite well. I really enjoyed the game as a pretty cheap game. I would liken the prices to what Digimon is now. You could walk in and buy a deck. You could walk in and buy a pack to your LGS for like under £20, under $25 or whatever. You could just walk in, get a deck, get some booster packs as well, maybe if you're really lucky, if the deck's discounted because it's about to go out of rotation or whatever. And you could have a pretty fun time. Or if you're feeling particularly like, if you're lucky, you can go in and get the uh, Tinker Tank style deck where it's the EX decks, the tournament ready decks, where it's all full arts and stuff like that. It's all like the cards that you would want to play, but deeply discounted, reprinted, and I think it has a stamp on it that says, "Hey, this came from so and so box." So anyway, there was options is my point. There was a lot of options for what you could get into, what you could play, what you could do, what you could collect. And if you were a collector, brilliant. Like you had options. If you were an investor, there were options too. Like obviously there's all of this new product, old product, whatever. The market was healthy. This corresponds to when Pokemon was producing too many copies of cards or was producing overstocks of product. And they weren't trying to spread it thinly, spread the same distribution thinly across carpet stores, across, you know, hardware stores. Everywhere has to have a box, and they want it now. Is the problem that we're actually seeing? It's too much demand, and it's kind of semi-confirmed print run cuts. Print run cuts probably for the 30th so that they have enough product. But let's be honest, we'll get onto that later. So we enter an era where Pokemon is worth money. People see Pokemon as something that they can collect. They can own a bit of their nostalgia. They can own a bit of history, I guess. Maybe that's their motivation. And they can enjoy the game, perhaps. Nobody plays the game, let's be honest. Very few people play the game. And we start to see people really getting a kind of fever pitch about Pokemon. Fast forward to 2024, 2025, obviously it all explodes. The Scalpers come out. I have a whole thing that I want to talk about with Scalpers. People are still defending them. People are just... I spoke with somebody, lovely person. They said that there was the only difference between a scalper and a flipper is where they are on the food chain, and I just don't agree. I just don't agree at all. But anyway, that's a topic for another video, perhaps. I look at the situation and I think, wow, I couldn't get packs in 2024, 2025, even if I wanted to. My interest in the game peaks a little bit because I'm looking at all of the Mega Evolution stuff. Obviously, the new game, the most recent game, the one that isn't Pokopia, comes out. I just kind of am meh about it. I'm like, well, your Mega Evolutions are kind of interesting, like Starmie with legs and things like that. That's interesting, but I'm sort of also like, I'd rather play the game in a format that isn't like doesn't involve me paying 500, 600, 700 for a Switch 2. And I kind of get looking, but by that point, by the time I've dipped back into the TCG scene, and specifically into the Pokemon TCG scene, I see that the prices have gone through the roof. I see that there's lots of talk about investment. I see that there's lots of talk about collecting. About the only reason you should ever open a booster pack is if you're going to complete a master set. I never saw that before. I saw a few people who I kind of saw as outliers at a locals who were saying master sets are where it's at. That's where the money is. That's what you got to do. They're not that expensive. They're not that hard to get. I ignored that, and I'm not interested in that. But they were now the main voice. Collecting was the same thing as investing. And I saw a lot of talk about money. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand the world that we're living in is unfortunately fueled by money, and I'm not anti money, but I am anti exploiting a market that doesn't need to be exploited. I am anti there not being enough revenue streams or I guess means of accessing these cards to the point where kids can't get it and future collectors can't get it and people who are trying to enjoy the game cannot get it. You have to pay the scalped price. So I'm opposed to that. And I've made that very clear because I think it's an important point to make. Like, I'm not against this TCG. And this is just a blanket statement for the whole video, my whole attitude on it. I'm not against this TCG. I just hate what's happening. I don't like bull markets. They scare me because, yes, there is a huge amount of opportunity to make money. And perhaps if I was in a financially different situation, I would be having a completely different conversation with you. I would be having a conversation where I'm saying, hey, look, I just got 6 crates of X, Y, and Z product. And maybe, like, maybe the situation would be completely different. But when I look at it from a collector perspective, when I look at it from a perspective of a person who's trying to create multiple generations of people who will enjoy the game, multiple generations of people who want to actually play the game and teach people how to play the game. And I've taught quite a lot of people how to play the game, and many of them still play to this day because of me teaching them how to play. When I look at it from that perspective, and everybody's obviously got their own unique perspective, it's what makes humans beautiful. When I look at it from that, I am looking at it from a sustainability perspective. If the current situation with Pokemon goes on longer than 5 years, there won't be a generation to enjoy your product. You will only get 40-year-olds, 45-year-olds, right now they're 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 45-year-olds plus, buying the product, flipping the product, selling the product to LGSs. LGSs then scalp and sell it for higher, and this is how bubbles inflate. This is how bad things happen. Because, and this is a point that I'll fast forward to now, this is what's happening. It is a circular buying game. A lot like a lot of other companies are doing right now. I buy your product from distribution, or you buy the product from distribution, you get your allotted amount, whatever. You sell it to a person, the person sells it for higher than the amount that it's worth. The LGS then buys it back because they can't get it anywhere, or a different LGS buys it back, or a person buys it back. Doesn't really matter at this point. Somebody buys the product from the scalper or from the initial person. They then scalp it for ridiculous amounts of money and push the market up, and then repeat that 6 or 7 times. Meanwhile, you've got old products nobody gives a shit about. No one cares about this old product. Literally, go back into the backlog of old Pokemon cards. Everybody, like, loads of it doesn't sell. There's a huge dip in the middle where nobody's interested in it. So That's why when buyouts happen, people go, "Oh my god, the market's moving." Yeah, the market is moving in a direction you didn't, you know, sort of see, I guess. And that's the one thing that I'm very cautious about, and I'm looking at the situation, I'm going, I don't want to be involved in this. I can't get the cards I want. I could have went to a tournament recently, or an event, an official event at my LGS for the newest Pokemon set. And it has some interesting cards in it. But as a person who was trying to make this into a sort of small business or side hustle, I now see the reality of I won't ever be able to play with those cards or own those cards because I won't get access to those cards past that initial event, past my 6 or 7 allocated booster packs if I win the tournament. So what's the point? At a certain point, the company cuts off every single person except the investor class or the scalper class or whatever you want to call it, class of people. They cut off everybody. They cut off the kids, they cut off the minor collectors, they cut off everybody just simply for the profit margins. Just simply to say, we sold product. Oh, what happened to the product? Oh my god. Well, never mind. We can't control the stores. Who cares? Just wait until the print facility. We can't tell you enough to wait for the print facility. It's coming in 2027, we swear. Well, even if it does it, as I've argued before, it's too late. The situation is dire. People in this TCG are starving for some kind of product. LGS, as I've spoken to, and my main one actually, particularly, is got no product. They've got nothing. They still got nothing. I reported on this like a week ago. They still have nothing. They have no Pokemon product left. They're busy selling whatever else. And nothing sells quite so well as Pokemon, so there we have it. That's the solution, isn't it? Just buy the scalped prices, right? Buy the prices, buy high, sell higher. That's essentially what they're trying to do. And that attitude is going to get somebody hurt. That attitude is going to cause genuine, actual harm in the end. Because it is the kind of attitude that is reckless, it's impatient, and it is overall just going to screw people over. Because when something does happen, when the bubble does pop, or maybe it never pops, maybe the bubble stays up for forever and the product population, the unopened product population stays, really, really high, really low, sorry. And there is nothing left of the unopened product. Well, fantastic. The only person who's won is not even a person, it's a company, it's the Pokemon company. The scalpers lost because they buy and flip and buy and flip and buy and flip. They just moved on to the next product. And maybe they made money and maybe they lost money. Who cares? Who cares what the scalpers are doing? At this point, with the situation with Pokemon and MTG, obviously very different companies, similar origins, but different companies, we are looking at a situation where Magic just said the quiet part out loud. And that could have been its whole other video, but I've seen multiple videos covering it already, and my information comes from where their information comes from. Magic just said, we are really happy that our product is not able to be bought by people. We are happy with the scarcity. We are happy with the rarity. We are happy with the fact that it is difficult for you to get it, and we're happy that other people are not able to access it. In other words, they publicly say, ooh, those scalpers, ooh, we hate them. And then they say, privately, scalpers are really good for business, huh? Really, really good. Let's keep the print numbers really low and make sure that we make maximum profit off of selling the least amount of material possible. I'm saying material because it's not even product at this point. I don't even know what they're selling a lot of the time in these TCGs. Mostly what they're actually selling is bulk, let's be honest. And that's fine. One person's bulk is another person's pauper deck, but I gotta be honest, there's just not a lot of optimism with Pokemon at all. And even less with MTG. If you're an investor, if you're a collector, there's a great deal of risk and reward in both of the TCGs. And go and enjoy that. If that's your game, go play in that very expensive playground. But as a person who came from Magic, came before that from Yu-Gi-Oh, jumped into Pokemon from Yu-Gi-Oh, and is jumping into other games now from those. I gotta be honest, I don't see the point in playing these games anymore. And I don't mean Pokemon TCG. I played Pokemon TCG quite a lot, and I enjoy it, and I can teach it, and I can play it. But I mean the game in terms of hoping and praying there is product available, and then realizing that there never will be, and then hoping and praying that the next set has product available, and then the same situation happens. Over and over again for a whole year. And I'm not the only one who's feeling this way. I'm not the only one who's pissed off. I'm not the only one who's screaming into the void and screaming at the situation and saying, please, just for the love of God, print something. Print something that isn't the goddamn 30th box that hasn't even been announced yet. Print something, for God's sake, and give us something to actually cling on to. Even minor products as well, like really, really minor products, they are completely decimated by this nonsense. Because, quite frankly, there is just no product coming at any level, entry level, upper level, whatever. It just isn't coming because they don't do collector boxes. And I mean MTG style collector boxes. They haven't got a, hey, your deck will be, or your cards will be mostly commons solution to this problem. What they do have is ever increasing prices and a population of people who are saying, look, my kid just wants some cards. Can they get some, please? And you're going, ha ha ha, $7, $8, $9, $12, $50, who cares? That's how much your pack will cost. It's really disincentivizing people from playing. And I see that. There's way less buzz about Pokemon TCG. On my locals Discord, there is a lot of people saying, hey, can you please get me a booster box? I'll pay $130 for it. And they say, yeah, we'll try. And then distribution probably more than likely doesn't make it possible to deliver. There are multiple sides to this story, and there are multiple people to blame, and there are many things that are wrong with the situation. But in the end, I just don't want to do it anymore. I'm not doing the Pokemon thing anymore. It makes me really, really tired, and trying to monitor the market and monitor what is going on and monitor anything to do with this is as exhausting as trying to make money from Yu-Gi-Oh probably is. It's not happening. They just will reprint anything that you are thinking of trying to sell at any kind of markup. It's just not happening. But Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon could literally not be further from, different. They couldn't be any different if they tried. Pokemon is just out of control. And I think recently on social media, don't quote me on this, they did make a post saying, hey, yeah, we realize we've lost control. It might have been yeah, that was 2024 actually. 2024, they made the first post saying that they have lost control of the print runs and they can't keep up with demand. And basically, that was their version of the WotC, aka was the cost post that we've just received recently uh, through an interview. So it's like a transcribed interview saying, "Hey, we lost control, but that's fine because it's really good for our profits." Wizards has to always be the dick in the room, right? They always have to be the people who make things worse. But Pokemon back in 2024 onwards, they were saying the same thing, except they were saying, we're really sorry, we're going to try and fix it. Print facility, print facility, print facility. Nothing changes. Because this is a really good time for them. Like, really good time. This is a really good time for their shareholders. They're a really good time for scalpers, really. I mean, they're making decent money, and most of their product is actually getting sold to LGSs. So I just want to walk away. I'm walking away from Pokemon TCG because it is tiring. And I'm not talking about it anymore. I just don't want to. If this is your playground and this is what you enjoy, then enjoy it. I don't talk. I'm not going to talk about Pokemon for the same reason that I don't talk about MTG. Nothing positive is happening. Even the universes within sets are kind of ridiculous because you won't see them. You might see them more than Pokemon TCG. Pokemon's got the funny characters, but MTG in general is sort of a topic for a different video. I've always had a sort of tenuous relationship with them. So yeah, not talking about Pokemon TCG anymore. Not for a while. I just not even for not a while. Like I just don't feel like if the situation doesn't change, I think lots of people are going to start to look at it and go, "Don't care, don't want to do it. I'll never see those cards anywhere. What's the point?" And right now, I think this is a really dangerous game for them to play because we've never seen more successful TCGs out there. And I'm not talking about One Piece, and I'm not talking about, a couple of the other bigger ones. I'm talking about overall in the whole market. There has never been more successful TCGs than now, in my opinion. Might be statistically not true. But I mean successful TCGs. Like we've got Riftbound, we've got Sorcery, we've got God knows how many others. MLP TCG is about to come up eventually when it actually reaches our shores. And there's going to be so much buzz about these other TCGs that there is just going to be a diminished interest in Pokemon if you make your product unavailable to people. If you make your product only appealing to collectors and investors. Only. I mean, I'm not opposed to it being as well. Like, put them in as well if you want. Put in the pretty cards so people have something to hunt for. That's fine. But if you make your product completely inaccessible to 99.9% of the market of the product who would want the product, people will walk. And there are plenty of other TCGs, some with elements like Pokemon, that people will happily play. Pokemon right now is relying entirely on two principles. greed. And greed is a one that a lot of companies employ, unfortunately. It is the nature of the game, I guess. And the second principle is nostalgia. If it's nostalgic, it'll sell. Well, the problem is, nostalgia has a half-life. The thing has to be seen in distant memory as sort of rare. Comes down to that artificial scarcity thing that we were talking about last video. It has to be seen as rare, seen as in the past. If you're throwing Pikachu everywhere, and yes, Pikachu is a phenomenon. There are fully grown adults out there right now, 40s, 50-year-old, with Pikachu backpacks and things like that. That's one thing. But that doesn't last forever. You can cheapen your brand and make it so that there is no point whatsoever where people are going to buy into it. You can hurt your own brand so badly by doing this shit that it completely crashes any kind of resaleability, any kind of goodwill that people have towards you and your brand, any kind of interest that people have in passing on generationally this game onto the next generation. If Pokemon continues to harbor these horrible practices, and it is mostly caused primarily by scalpers, by people who are not acting very well in the community, who are raiding Walmarts and camping out outside of them and things like that. If they're enabling these practices, if they're just allowing it and saying it's fine, then it's not going to last, is it? It can't last. Nothing can last like that. And in the end, they will lose. And I hope the crash hurts them to the point where they actually have to think about things properly. Because this isn't the first time that they've done this. This isn't the first time the Pokemon Company have been greedy. They overprinted the hell out of sets in 2022, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it crashed the market. And people lost interest, and it took 2-3 years for things to reset, didn't it? Well, they can do a lot worse by doing it this way, by twisting the market to the point where it's going to snap. And in the end, there is nothing that we can do to stop it except not participate. If we choose to walk away, say we have no money or value or whatever in this product, no sealed boosters, no cards of any interest, no anything like that. If we just walk away, or we sell up, or we make whatever decision we're going to make, and then we take back our energy and move into something else, move into something actually interesting, excuse the car noise, then we will end up much happier people. Step away from the market, step away from the chaos, because it's becoming a small-scale Wall Street simulator where the profits are higher, but everything's much riskier. People are flipping and selling and buying and sharing and whatever. Like, it doesn't make sense to me why people are putting this much value and this much risk into everything. And to tell you the truth, I just personally, I'm stepping away from it. I'm going to focus on other TCGs. I'm going to focus on actually things that make me positive. And if when the 30th actually comes out, if it's actually available, if it's actually interesting, I can even get goddamn packs of the thing, then yeah, maybe I'll cover it then. But right now it's just looking absolutely bleak. I can't believe that the situation has gotten worse since I started following all of this. Because, as I said before, I made this channel as a way of tracking the situation with that TCG and talking about products that I'm actually interested in. I never expected it to get worse. I never expected this whole situation to get to the point where people who are doing the investor nonsense, they're taking the cards, they're getting them graded, they're doing all of this, all of the steps, or they're holding on to massive amounts of product. I didn't expect them to turn around and say, I'm scared. What the hell is the market doing? It can't go this high forever. I didn't expect them to do a 180 and look at the situation and go, this is unsustainable. What the hell are we doing? But I noticed the writing on the wall. It can't go on forever. It can't be like this forever. And you can't make generational wealth forever off of a product that is not actually finite. Because the interest in the product is not actually finite. So anyway, I've gone over this in multiple videos now. I've given far too much of my energy to it. I'm going to start talking about things that I actually care about. Like shard bugs. Oh god, that's going to be a long video. I'm going to do the third one, the third set. I'm not sure what the third set's called yet. I like to go in completely blind. And then I have a video on Sorcery Contested Realms that is coming up as well. Because I played 2 games of it and I really enjoyed it. So yeah. No more negative Pokemon content. No more anything like that. Not until... It can't get much worse, right? Famous last words, it can't get much worse. But yeah, thank you for watching.